Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Donovan Sadiq. I am still here in the Caribbean and the Dominican Republic. And please continue to follow me, like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to give you guys a serious report. As you guys know, I come to the Dominican Republic twice a year, at least minimum. I like coming down here. It's better for my health. It's better for my skin. All this passport bro nonsense that's going on. We have some young guns that do what young people do is crazy. But I've never been to the Dominican Republic around this type of year. And so where I'm at in the Dominican Republic is in the Puerto Plata area. And all the hotels and everything is booked. So I'm just making a long story short because this doesn't go anything with the topic. But basically, the town is full of Europeans, okay? And it kind of makes sense, but he had to explain it to me because, the town is antiquated with white European families and older people. And they explained to me the reason that is because they're escaping the cold out of Europe. This is a major destination for European families and people to come here. But we talk about the passport bros, right? My question is, why aren't we talking about the passport olds? Nobody talks about the passport olds, and I'm gonna do that in another video, but I wanna get you guys a little bit up to speed on what's happening here, because you see a lot of older women with a lot of young Dominican men here, dating or whatever they're doing, having fun, enjoying each other's company. I don't have a problem with it. I just think it's kind of ironic that all we talk about is when men do a certain thing, but when the same women are doing it. I think that they also do that in Africa as well, in places in Africa as well. But hey, you guys, Donovan Sadiq from the Dimitri K Show. Want to talk to you guys a little bit about the Memphis police chief, Cerelyn J.Davis. And a lot of people don't really know a lot of her background and a lot of things that was going on. You guys have seen her on TV. She's a very attractive lady. She's been married. She has one child. People don't do their homework. People do not do their homework when they see these people and stuff like that. And I was reading the comments on some of the news outlets she was on, and the black women are like, "Oh yeah, sis, she's the first. She's the first." What does being the first have to do with anything to better your people's situation? It makes no good. It means no good being the first of anything if you won't even do for your own people. If we can't celebrate you being the first because you were the first to do it, then it doesn't mean anything. So let me give you guys a little background on this, because a lot of people don't know her history. That's why it was kind of weird for me when she's up there talking about, I did not understand their intent. And, she acts like she is outraged by what those officers did to that young man, when she knew all along what this whole unit was about. So let me give you a little bit of background. Okay, she is the first female chief in Memphis. Now, remember, that's the South, and Southern men have traditional women in general, and they really don't like women like that, okay? When a Black person is put into a position where they are the first to do it in a area that is predominantly racist and stuff, they're just painting a picture to make you feel good. It's all fluff, okay? It's all fluff. But a little bit about her. She was born in 1959 and 1960 in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I'm assuming she's a military brat. Terry Davis is her spouse. She has one child. She resides in Memphis. She went to St. Leo University, Central Michigan University, and North Central University, another high educated Black female. She has an official website. Her nickname is CJ. That's what they call her. Davis joined the Atlanta Police Department in 1986. She was demoted. Now, this is the Wikipedia I'm reading from. She was demoted and then fired in 2008, but reinstated following an appeal process. Not saying she is a bad person and whatever, because we know when bad cops, because of their unions, they get to keep their jobs or they get to be reinstated to go work somewhere else, because it's just bullshit, okay? Doesn't mean she didn't do what they say she did, because what do cops say when they get in trouble? It's not the idea that
this person didn't do what is claimed that was done against them. What is claimed is the process. That person was denied due process.
That's the cop's excuse. And this mantra that in their training, they are taught mentally that they need to go home to their families first. What is the point of joining the police department if you, who are sworn to protect and serve, you just want to serve yourself and your family? What's the point of that? Why would you join the military if you're not out there to defend the Constitution and the interests of the United States? What would be the point of that? And that's one of the problems in their training, because it creates an adversarial type situation between protect and serve, people that are supposed to serve you and serve the public, and the general public. And this is why a lot of Black people have animosity toward police officers, and police officers are really, really getting a bad name. And there's a certain generation, a very selfish generation of Americans that have run this country into the ground, and they're still in power today. And the country's still going into the ground. So anyway, she was demoted and then fired. Notice they don't say why she was demoted, why she was fired, but reinstated following an appeal process. That same year, the Oprah magazine identified Davis as one of the 80 women forming the White House Leadership Project. Women rule. Bullshit. I mean, they love to soup themselves up on this bullshit. Davis became deputy chief of the Atlanta Police Department, and in 2016 became chief of the Durham Police Department in North Carolina. Davis has served as president of the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives in 2020. See, and that's another thing. Why do these law enforcement officers have different associations? I think that should be abolished, because if you're a police organization, there should be one organization. So basically they have rifts within their organizations. We know, I'm from California. As we know, California has gangs in certain departments of law enforcement within California, right? Hey, rain, love, shalom, 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 shalom. So doing that, Davis served as president. In 2020, Davis appeared on Good Morning America, where she called for sweeping changes in police reform following the murder of George Floyd. Okay, this is what she called for. But notice it's symbolism. She loves Black people, especially a certain generation, baby boomer generation, Black people love symbolism. They love, it's a Black face. That doesn't mean they're going to work for you. Some of the worst people that are against Black people are Black people. And I'm going to get to Jimbo, James Clyborne, in a second, because remember, Jimbo was like, we don't need no qualified immunity. We got to get this bill passed. We can forego that. That don't mean nothing. People like that. Because guess what? If there was a qualified immunity, do you think Tyree would be alive today? I do. She was sworn in as the Memphis police chief in 2021. Davis is the Memphis police chief's first Black female chief. She's the first female chief. They never had a chief other than men. God. She is also the first female police chief of Memphis. That's what I'm saying. Why do they have to delineate? And they do that because Black people love symbolism. Black women love it. They love symbolism. Ooh, we hot girl summer. Ooh, we, it's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. Just like them, this rift between Black men and Black women has to stop. We have to come together and deal with our enemies as they present themselves. Then we can work on ourselves. You know what I mean? Yeah, and Rain Love, anybody with any critical thinking skills would know that if we had got the crime bill that we were supposed to get and qualified immunity repealed for these police officers, they would not be so quick to be so violent and stuff, because they're going to be held accountable. But their counter argument to pulling qualified immunity is the fact, that will not make police officers do their duty. If I'm a suspect and I got a gun and I'm pointing it at an officer, so you're telling me the officer's not going to defend himself? Come on. There was no such thing as qualified immunity for police officers up until the 1960s. Qualified immunity initially was to protect lawmakers because some of the laws, which is a law that they potentially could make, could kill people. It could kill people. In the 1960s, they added law enforcement to the qualified immunity through the Supreme Court. But guess what? Every time these officers get involved in a situation, we, the taxpayer, pay for it. I'm tired of paying, all this money. And in some cities, I've done some studies. In some cities, do you know some cities use 40% of their budget that goes to the police force. And why is it so high? They always need equipment. They always need pay raises. And they always need money to defend themselves against lawsuits. The minimum lawsuit that a federal lawsuit goes against a police officer is $25,000. $25,000 if a person wants to pursue something like that and win. That's the award settlement. That's not including court fees, the city's court fees, and all that. It all adds up. So if we repeal qualified immunity and says, okay, officer, either you're going to be responsible for your actions and could be sued by the suspect or the person, or let your union, all your union dues, let your union pay for your stuff. Why do the taxpayer, have to pay for it? Then if you're convicted, you go to jail, taxpayer money has to house you and feed you and all this other stuff. So that's something that we need to talk about. In January 2023, Davis described the killing of Tyree Nichols as a defining moment in the Memphis Police Department's history. She terminated the employment of 5 police officers associated with his death. Now, here's what they don't tell you about this lady. When she was in Atlanta, she formed a special task force in Atlanta to combat rising crime and gang activity. Now, this is a Black woman. This was her idea, right? But when you form task units like that, where do they go? They go to the Black neighborhoods that are riddled with, high unemployment, high crime, and just all the problems that the Democratic Party refuses to solve for Black people. And they were brutalizing people in Atlanta and stuff, excessive force and all this other stuff. That unit was disbanded when she became police chief in Durham, North Carolina. Now, think about it. I formed this task force in Atlanta. I'm the assistant police chief, and it got shut down because of problems of over-policing and just rampant, I can't necessarily say corruption, but violence against the citizenry, right? And these task forces always seem to go into the Black neighborhoods, right? Well, they go to the Black neighborhoods. That's where all the crime is. Wow, they're statistically proven more money is stolen in white-collar crime than any Black crime across the United States. That's a fact. You don't see police officers over, in the white crime areas, policing all these people stealing tens of thousands of dollars of Ponzi schemes and white collar crimes, Donald Trump tax evasions and all that other stuff. I don't see thousands of agents doing that. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. The more the white people steal and the white collar criminals do, the less people they have watching them. Critical thinking. So she knew that unit had got shut down because of what they were doing, over policing or whatever they were doing. She becomes police chief in Durham, North Carolina. She forms another task force that has the same exact results as what happened in Atlanta. That task force gets shut down, right? Her excuse, most likely, like most politicians, is, well, the people that are being victimized have a right to, safety and security. You're damn right. But when we're being victimized by the very people that are supposed to protect us, that's even worse. That's even worse. You're putting us in a worse situation because now you're giving us tickets we can't afford to pay. You're incarcerating people that can't afford to be incarcerated, and now they're losing their jobs. And the worst thing about the whole thing, You put a black face on it and you have them go and do the dirty work. This is why I keep telling you guys, black police officers are just as bad as the white ones because they're blue first. Like me, like myself, military veteran, whatever. So I have a brother sisterhood with my fellow veterans. That's one thing we have in common. And we have a code that we do, right? But unfortunately, I'm one of those veterans that's like, no, I'm not with the bullshit. You guys go ahead and do that. I will drop dime on you. And I did that in my military career. I would drop dime when shit was not right or I handled it, right? But there's this blue wall. If the blue wall did not exist, why do they acknowledge the blue wall? That's why I keep telling you guys, there's no such thing as a good cop. You know, I hate when, especially, I hate when black people do this. Well, they're not all bad. Well, how do you know? How do you know they're not all bad? If I saw somebody do a crime and I'm a police officer, and you see it all every day, you see good cops, so-called good cops, bad. You see them bad. Here's an example. Work with me. Basic traffic stop. Okay, no, that's a bad example. A cop stops you to question you about something, right? You know you haven't done anything wrong. The cop is asking for your ID, which you can't do unless you have a reasonable, articulate suspicion of a crime has happened or about to happen. They have to have a reason to stop you. Certain states are not stopping ID states and all this other. New York is a totally different animal. But my point is this. So they stop you and they say, give me your ID. You refuse to do so. You didn't do anything wrong. You know you didn't do anything wrong or whatever. Better example for those guys that kind of understand it, trespassing. You're in a property, a public property. You're in a government building. You're in City Hall. They ask you to leave. You didn't do anything. You didn't make a ruckus, whatever. You're just in there exercising your rights just to be in there. Let's say it's a hot day. You just want to go in there and look around and, you know, and enjoy the AC. And because a lot of people do that in California in the summertime where I live in the desert. So people go into like government buildings, just hang in there just to hang with the AC. But the staff wants you gone. They cannot remove you from a public building. You can't remove you from a public sidewalk. You paid for that. That's your sidewalk. That's your building. A lot of officers, like I've been telling you guys, they don't know law. They don't know it. So my point is this. So the initial officer makes contact with you. He wants your ID, whatever. Now in a trespass, if you are being trespassed legally or illegally, they have to first ask you to leave. Then if you choose not to leave, you could be arrested under the threat of the trespass. Okay. That's just how it works. In a trespass situation, they have to ask you to leave. There are some situations, you ever see the initial officer, he will be there. Then the backup officer is there. And the backup officer, let's say they know law and they know this is fucked up. But what do they always say? Oh, it's not my arrest, it's his arrest. But they see this person violating your rights, but they do nothing about it. It's not my arrest, it's his arrest. No. You were sworn to uphold the Constitution and the laws. So because he has a badge like you, you're not going to uphold what they're doing? You should be arresting the other officer or defusing the situation to let it go and educate the officer on the law. But that's a better example of a good, let's say a good cop who's seeing a bad cop violating your rights and they do nothing about it. Then you read the police report, it's not even mentioned. You know what I mean? And they'll sit there. They'll be like this, sitting there with their little thing. Oh, it's not my arrest. But he's there to back the bad cop up. Okay. So moving forward. J.Davis, Chief Davis, she now is the police chief of Memphis. After 2 failed units that were brutalizing citizens and had to be shut down, she formed another task force in Memphis that just killed and murdered Tyree. Just did it. When will you learn that whatever you were trying to do does not work? It does not work. If I was forming that unit, and this is me playing armchair quarterback, I would put officers or a form of security officers under the police guise without weapons other than a baton or something that they can use, a whistle, whatever, to police those areas that might be high crime areas. You don't have to give them a gun. Give them, have the city pay for security in these crime-fisted areas, and then they report what they see, and they call the police, and when the police need to be called in, right? Right? You could do that. So, like I said, when Joe Biden came into office, myself, the New Black Media, Dimitri K, which is I'm a contributing producer on there, we were saying a George Floyd bill without qualified immunity in it is toothless. And now another man has gotten killed. Jim Clyborne. You don't need no qualified immunity. For what? We got to get the crime bill passed. Infrastructure bill passed. Okay, you got the infrastructure bill passed. How many nationwide Black construction companies are there? There are a few, but who benefits from the infrastructure bill? It definitely ain't Black people as a whole. It isn't. You know, do you know who's going to benefit from that infrastructure bill coming from the bottom up? Hispanics. During the pandemic in my neighborhood, and I live in an old neighborhood. Hey, good morning, sweet. Hope I said this right. Sudaban 49. Good morning, good morning, good morning. But in my neighborhood, I live in an old neighborhood in my city. When the pandemic was happening, my Hispanic neighbors were upgrading their water heaters, doing repairs on their homes, just doing it. They have the skills to do this kind of stuff, right? We've lost that in our community. You know, I'm fairly skilled. I was before I became a pilot, I was a aircraft mechanic. So I do have mechanical skills, and people that come to my house, I've upgraded my house. Even before I came here to the DR, I was doing some landscaping and some trimming in my backyard so that when I go back home and the spring comes, I won't have as much work. You know what I mean? If anything, I have to move the stuff that I've cut down and dump it and get it going, whatever. But they don't tell you about J.Davis's situation. This is why qualified immunity is not negotiable. It should never be negotiable. And the generation that keeps selling us out and keep fucking this country up is the baby boomer generation, the most selfish generation ever. Ever. We have a 79-year-old man that is the president. Now, not taking anything away from him, but he said, you stood by me, I'll stand by you. We're still waiting. Right now, they're not even proposing to do anything about it. Right. It's the older generation, the baby boomers, right? My parents' generation. They will not give up power. And I'm sorry to say this, and I'm not saying as a whole, and it's not addressed to a certain person, but you know that saying, when you throw a rock at a dog in a pile of dogs and the dog barks, that's the one that gets hit, is the one that barks. But the baby boomer generation is a loser generation. Loser generation. They go to Vietnam, and that kind of started in the 70s, the late 60s, 70s. You know, a lot of them didn't want to fight. A lot of them, they stood up for what was right. I'll give them that. But they had no teeth behind them. They didn't want to do things. That generation, out of any generation previous before it, just totally took the baton and just shit on it. They started doing drugs, just shucking their responsibilities. Now think about this. I know men my parents' age that have kids all over the place and were never held accountable to support those children. But then they make laws for the generations after them that you can be held accountable for back child support and all this. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. Yeah, gatekeepers and stuff like that. So back to CJ, she becomes a chief and she forms another task force to do this. Now, qualified immunity even as a military person, when I was in Afghanistan and other places, in other countries, I have to be very careful how I act because yes, the military is going to protect me to a certain extent. But if I was convicted, let's say in Japan, if I'm convicted in Japan, as a courtesy, they can detain me in a military prison until the Japanese trial or whatever. Say I did something heinous. But the point is, once I'm convicted, I'm still a military member. I'm going to serve my time in that Japanese or that foreign jail, unless there's some kind of agreement where I'm held in something like, another agreement. But it's very brutal. So my point is, I'm going to police my actions and be very careful how I interact with with my host country and how I act. How many of you guys heard years ago where a Marine assaulted a young girl in Okinawa? And I mean, all kinds of horrific stuff happened. And it happens. We're not saying it doesn't. But when you know that you are going to be held accountable for what you're doing, you kind of think before you act in most cases. You got some people that just don't give a shit. But in most cases, you do. Right? So if those officers knew that they were going to face consequences, I mean, I'm looking at the video and it's crazy to me. They know that their body cams are on. They know they're being recorded, and yet they continue to do what they were doing. You want to know why they did that? It's not that they didn't know the blue line. They know the recording is either going to be muted, the recording is going to be deleted, or the blue line is going to protect them. They just know they're not going to be held responsible. They're not going to be held responsible because they have qualified immunity. They know I could beat the shit out of this person, whatever. Just like in J.Davis, she was fired as an Atlanta police officer, but the process brought her back. She didn't get due process, and it brought her back. Corruption on top of corruption on top of corruption. We need qualified immunity. Everybody else in this country has some form of bill and resources allocated to him, but Black people. Hey, Frank, how you doing? Frank Nitty. We need qualified immunity to protect us. We are the most unprotected group of people in the United States, and we built this motherfucker. Very, very sad. Sorry about my language, but it's very upsetting. I have 2 sons. I'm a man myself. I mean, it's bad enough being a Black man and waking up every day and dealing with the stress of white supremacy running around in the United States, and then dealing with feminism that is messing our women up. And I'm not saying every woman's a feminist. I'm not saying that, but you guys know where I'm going with that. It is a planned directive planned at us. And when we see our women constantly being used against us, it's very, very frustrating. You guys heard about Kamala Harris, and it's crazy. Kamala Harris is going to the funeral today. I think the funeral's today. Going to make an appearance. Kamala Harris is going, you guys heard about her convening a task force to figure out why Black men are leaving the Democratic Party. Symbolism. That's all we get. That's all we get is symbolism. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. So something to think about, you guys. When I saw Chief Davis acting like she was just so shocked and surprised that she doesn't understand why the officers were doing this and she knew our women are a prime tool used against us for white supremacy. Be it she knows it or not. And then Maxine Waters comes out from under her rock talking about, I just think that, George Floyd, you didn't want the bill. You didn't want to do anything about it. But that's what we were saying. But where's Karen Bass? She was the lead congressman on the negotiations it shouldn't have been negotiated. That is a non-negotiating situation. Maxine Waters isn't even a baby boomer. She's a silent generation person. She's still in power. These people have fucked up this country, and they fucked up our group of people here in the United States. Rain Love says, but yet we are being taxed and not protected and represented. Why are we being taxed? Exactly. But I mean, I just get sick to my stomach. Maxine Waters crawls from under her mouth, and she tries to talk so eloquently, like she's such a highly educated person, you know. And it's just like, get the fuck out of here with all that bullshit. Show and prove. I'm with the show and prove movement. Don't talk about it, be about it. But don't sit here and act like you are just shocked and amazed that these cops wilded it out in the community that you formed and you released within our community, the community that you are more closely related with than any other community. Yeah, you're the only Black family in the Copland area in Memphis. Good for you. Good for you. But stop giving us symbolism and bullshit. This happened on your watch, Chief Davis. You should quit and you should resign. This was your task force. You should be held accountable. Yeah, Tawana, yeah, exactly. Black politicians are just embarrassment at this point. Exactly. Now, notice in my scroll here, right? When I started exposing Black Congress members based on their website, what they've done for us, and I showed that there's nothing here. That's why I say Black politicians ain't shit. And all of the baby boomers, my mom, my aunts, my uncles, they were pissed at me. And some of them still are pissed at me because I told the truth. Because I told the truth. They got theirs, but what about the generations after you? A legacy is what you leave behind, not living your life now. A legacy is what you leave behind. They ain't doing it. So anyway, I know you guys are saying, what the hell he's got on? I am going snorkeling today. So I got my suit on and stuff, and I'm going to go into the water. The water is very warm here. And this is a light swimsuit type stuff. I always tell people, I don't care where you are. I've traveled all my life. As a kid, I was a military brat. I lived in Japan, went to school there, experienced stuff. Travel. You guys travel at a young age, because the sooner you travel, the more your mind is expanded. Okay. Your mind, understands a lot of things. And then sometimes you come back seeing what you saw over there saying, damn, we're no better than, this situation over here. I've been in countries where people had to scrounge in the landfills just to find food, clothing, and shelter. And even in some places in Africa, you've got communities that live on a landfill, and that's where they get a lot of their resources, because they're being robbed, rich, dumb, and blind. But if you think about it, what are they doing to us here in America? Sudiban, and again, I'm sorry if I say that wrong, they have sold us out years ago. They use these positions of power and stay in office for life and do nothing for us and let the area downgrade to the point where developers come. Yeah, gentrification, exactly. See, and that's the good thing. A lot of us are waking up, and we've got to expand this message, because remember, they will never get reparations. Now it's a serious, viable thing. It's a serious, viable thing, and we got to keep talking about this, and we got to keep holding these people accountable, because guess what? I'm a Generation Xer. Leadership has completely passed over my generation, okay? When those millennials and those Generation Ys and whatever else comes up behind us get into power, you're going to see a drastic shift in how America deals with anything. I was raised off, you get up, you go work hard, and you do things. You're going to see some serious stuff going on when they are in power, and they're starting to take positions now. Am I a bit afraid? A little bit, okay? Because I don't want to be grouped with the baby boomers that put these millennials in positions to where they can't find jobs, they can't buy homes, drug addiction is out of control. I don't want to be grouped into that. And I tell my nieces and nephews all the time, we're not in power. You can't blame me. You can't blame, your parents' generation. It's your grandparents' generation. And it's not a blame game. But the point is, those are the facts. So anyway, you guys, do a lot of traveling when you guys get a chance. Even take little small trips. I don't care if you get on a bus and you go to a different environment. Take your children to different environments so that they can see where they fit in the world. That is so important. It expands your mind. When my son graduated high school, I gave him a choice. do you want to go to college right now? Because, college is not for everybody. Or do you want to go to Europe and just travel around in Europe and stuff like that? I preferred him to go and travel for a year in Europe and just go over there and explore and see what it is. And I was going to help him do all that. He chose to go to, and he had traveled before that. He's a military kid. So he chose to go to college because he had a plan, and he stuck to that plan, and he did very, very well. He went to an HBCU and all that other stuff and did what he had to do. But, I'm going to tell you guys, experience is way more valuable than book knowledge, because as we know, as experienced people, you could have a degree in a certain thing. And most of us have a degree and we never work in the field that our degree is from, but you can have a degree, right? And you join a company, everything that you learn, they're going to throw that out anyway and teach you their way. That's why in the police department, they do not go over constitutional law. These police officers do not know the basic law. Go up to a police officer and just ask them, what's the Fourth Amendment? They should know that off of the top of their head. They should know. What's the First Amendment? They swore an oath to this. But nobody ever checks them. Nobody ever checks them. All they ever do to keep their currencies is they keep their firing range stuff up. I mean, you look at some of these guys. These guys are built like Bob SquarePants, and they're just out of shape and all this stuff. That's why they shoot, because they know they can't run. But, the military, we have to kind of, at least in the Air Force, it's constant book stuff. Not only are you doing your job, you also have to go back and, and reiterate stuff like that. That's what we should be doing. Hey, okay, you only got 10 hours of 6 months of academy work. Now you're in the field, you're actually an officer. There should be an annual review and like me being a pilot. I just don't fly and there's no review every year to check my skills. I have to be checked. And then there's an inspection that I do. There's one that is noticed. They tell you about it. And there's one you don't know when it's going to come. They just show up on the plane and they say, I'm your examiner. I'm going to be checking you out today. And they do it. And that's how they keep us up on our skills. And it's up to me to go and stay in the books and that helps me become a better pilot. So why aren't our police officers held to that standard? You have to know, better law. You were in the academy. That's great. But now we're going to go into other parts of law. Let's go into state law. You need to know certain things in state law. And you don't have to know it by heart. There's no way in the Air Force or even in aviation, you could learn all of the FAA regulations that relate to flying airplanes and being around airplanes, right? But you have books, and you should be able to go to that book and find the answer that your examiner is giving you. Nobody wants you to memorize anything. They want you to, certain things you need to memorize. Like when the plane's on fire, the engine's on fire, you better know by memory. Boom, hit the thing, pull the handle, discharge the agent, period. That should be muscle memory. But all those books, no way. So if I get asked a question, I should be able to go and get it. No matter the question, find the answer and give it to them. But Chief Davis, she's a total fraud. She knew what she was doing when she formed that task force. I believe she's responsible. So anyway, you guys, I just want to keep that coming up. Even though I'm in the DR, I'm getting rejuvenated down here. I'm going to be bringing up other jewels. Catch me on the Dimitri K Show at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're doing it big over here. The New Black Media is out there. Also catch Brother Phil on the African Diaspora News Channel. They have a lot of great gems that go down there as well. Also, please talk to your loved ones. The best way for us to do change is to talk to those people in your family, And Rain Love, I am going to see you on the Dimitri K Show. Thank you for the support. We love you. Please, just talk to each one, teach one. So, if you got a son, a daughter, whatever, an aunt, an uncle, even though my mom's a baby boomer, a lot of stuff that I talk to her about, she kind of gets it now. Because at the time she's just, I'm a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. Don't tell me nothing. I'm a Democrat. Now she's like, wait a minute, hold up. You're right. Hold on. And it works. It does work. So you guys enjoy your day. I will be at the beach swimming in this warm water. And check out my video. I'm going to do it a little bit later. People say, well, Don, why aren't you posting any pictures and stuff like that? I'm not a passport bro. I don't do that. I've lived overseas all my life. I know how to do it, right? But I am going to talk about a situation that I call the passport olds. These European women that are going to these countries and dating young African Americans, Dominicans, and other things like that. I'm assuming sex tourism. I'm not sure. Nobody talks about that. You guys have a great day. Be blessed, but do not let Chief Davis fool you. Do your homework on her. Think about it. She formed 3 task forces that had the same exact result. And she's appalled. Really. Have a great day.